In this video, we will talk about one of the world's religions, namely Buddhism, a religion in which there is no place for God. Get ready to learn 10 interesting facts about Buddhism. Let's start, of course, with where, when, and how this teaching, Buddhism, appeared. It emerged in the 6th century before Christ in northern India, and its founder is Shakyamuni Buddha. It is worth saying at once that Buddha is not anyone's name, and especially not a deity. The word Buddha translates from Sanskrit as awakened, meaning a person who has achieved enlightenment. So technically, any one of you can become a Buddha. But back to Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. His real name was Siddhartha Gautama, and he was the son of the ruler of a small Indian principality. Until he was almost 30 years old, he lived in a palace and bathed in luxury. He had a large number of concubines, servants, and all sorts of pleasures. His father purposely kept him out of the palace so that the young prince would not see all the troubles that were going on in the world. However, one day when he was about 30 years old, he did find a way to sneak out of the palace and made several forays. During the first, he met a sick person. During the second, he saw an old man. And during the third, he was able to watch someone's corpse being carried. He was shocked by what he saw, for he had never seen anything like this before. As he lived in the palace and was shielded from all these troubles, Gautama realized that all these human conditions, though horrible, are absolutely normal and inevitable for everyone. He left the castle for the 4th time, during which he met a holy man who was seeking a way out of all human suffering. Inspired by this man, Gautama finally left his palace and went wandering to achieve enlightenment. The story of his quest deserves a separate video, so I'll just say that in the end, after much traveling, he finally achieved enlightenment and found a way to get rid of suffering as well as the desires that tormented him. He did it through meditation. He became Buddha, that is, enlightened and awakened, and then began to teach his teachings to those he could help. This is how Buddhism came into being, and the Buddha who founded it is usually called Shakyamuni Buddha. Most often, when they say the word Buddha, they mean him, although there were quite a lot of Buddhas, that is, enlightened people in the world. Many people mistakenly believe that Buddhists consider Buddha as their deity and worship him. This is not entirely true. Buddha is only a teacher, and there is no God as such in Buddhism at all. Buddhism is commonly called a religion, although it would be more correct to call it a philosophy and teaching. The purpose of Buddhism is to rid a person of suffering and desires that torment him. That is, in fact, to find complete peace. Technically, one can even be a Buddhist while practicing another religion. I will not enumerate all the principles and laws of this doctrine, as it would take a lot of time. However, I will tell about the main practice, meditation. It was thanks to it that Buddha reached enlightenment and calmed his mind. He preached it as the main tool. However, not all Buddhists practice it, just as not everyone who considers himself a Christian goes to church. That is, Buddhism ended up being not at all what Buddha himself wanted. Such is unfortunately human nature. It is very common to see such golden statuettes of a pot-bellied, smiling man who needs to be stroked on the pot-belly to attract good luck to his home. Many people believe that this is the Buddha, but this is only partly true. This statuette really symbolizes Buddha, but not the one with whom Buddhism began. This pot-bellied man symbolizes one of the reincarnations of Buddha Maitreya, but not Buddha Shakyamuni. Many people think that all Buddhists are vegetarians. However, this is not true. Many do adhere to this diet based on their own beliefs. However, Shakyamuni Buddha himself most likely never insisted on vegetarianism, even though he considered it desirable. Therefore, there are many among Buddhists who do consume meat, especially in mountainous regions where cultivation is extremely difficult, such as Tibet. In the Kingdom of Bhutan, it is a small country in South Asia. The absolute majority of the population professes Buddhism. So, in the villages of this country, you can often see images of penises painted on the walls of houses as a symbol of good luck. This custom originated in the 15th century thanks to a Buddhist monk named Drugpad Kanuli, who went down in history as a crazy holy monk. He preached his religion in a very unusual way. He mocked the sanctimony and ignorance of the people around him and could not stand pretenses. He was very fond of wine and beautiful women, which he did not hide, and he considered a cock as a symbol of love and life. So he drew them on the walls of buildings and fences. Even then, he had many disciples whom he brought to enlightenment and realization by very unusual methods, including through sexual practice. He paid his students for his teaching with beer. Currently, Drugpad Kanuli is considered a highly respected saint in Bhutan, and several temples have even been built in his honor. This man had an unusual life. He loved women, drank, painted penises on fences, and became a saint. The symbol of the swastika, which we used to think of as a Nazi symbol, is sacred to Buddhists. This sign appeared in the East many thousands of years ago, even before the birth of Buddhism itself. It symbolizes the sun, movement, and life, and in addition to Buddhism is considered sacred in many other Eastern religions. The Nazis simply adopted this sign from the inhabitants of the East, slightly changed its appearance, and made it their symbol. Many high-ranking Nazis were fond of Eastern mysticism and esotericism, so the swastika was chosen by them for their symbolism. So if you suddenly find yourself in Tibet and see a swastika somewhere there, do not be frightened, because it is not what you think. Buddhism is very kind and respectful of science and progress in general, unlike most other religions. The main Tibetan Buddhist leader, the Dalai Lama 14, has even stated that if science ever proves Buddhism wrong about something, Buddhism will adjust to it and abandon this or that tenet, even if it is something fundamental. For example, if science can somehow prove that karma doesn't exist, Buddhism will most likely abandon belief in it, even though it is a very important element of this religion. There have been precedents like this before. Buddhists used to have their own view of what the cosmos, planets, stars, and so on are, but in the light of recent scientific discoveries, they have significantly adjusted their teachings to conform to reality. Of course, this is the only correct way for a particular doctrine to interact with science. Buddhism, unlike religions such as Christianity and Islam, does not have one main central text from which to draw information about the teachings. Instead, Buddhism has a large number of written sources produced in different countries and at different times. Some sources are recognized by most Buddhists, while others are not. Because of this, different schools of Buddhism often contradict each other on certain issues. Buddhism has had a great influence on the work of many Western art people. Buddhist motifs are very strongly traced in George Lucas's Star Wars, because he was inspired by it when he created his universe and trilogy of films. The philosophy of Buddhism is also reflected in the movie The Matrix, which simply abounds with references to this teaching. In addition to people of art, Buddhism was practiced by many scientists, businessmen, and inventors, including Steve Jobs. Perhaps it is to Buddhism that we owe the simple, minimalist, and calm design of Apple products. Buddhism is one of the most widespread world religions. However, in terms of the number of followers, it is far behind Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. The exact number of Buddhists in the world is very difficult to ascertain, but the number is approximately 500 million worldwide. In comparison, there are approximately 2.5 billion Christians in the world. Most of the Buddhists live in China and countries such as Cambodia, Nepal, Vietnam, imams, as I described at the beginning of the video. Buddhism originated in India. However, there are very few Buddhists there now, less than 1% of the total population. That's all for the continuation of the topic. I encourage you to watch my videos with interesting facts. The links will be right there on the screen. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please share it with your friends. I will have a lot of pleasure. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Bye!